the spot. I never thought much about the smell of grease. At 17, it meant money, and money meant gas from my mother's car. My real world wasn't Crestview High, it was Grillers, a squat brick burger joint that was the town's hotspot. It was a local landmark, yet outside it looked unremarkable, a testament to its singular focus. Grillers wasn't just a fast food place, it was a local cult, and as an employee, I had status. Kids sought my recommendations. Parents insisted their children try the famous Crestview burger. The place was immaculate, always. Mr. Grindle demanded perfection. The stainless steel gleamed, the fryer oil was changed religiously, and the floor tile grout was bleached daily. This constant obsessive cleanliness was part of the ritual. The sweet sizzle of the grill, the clatter of the spatulas, and the intoxicating aroma made every shift feel like performance. The source of this loyalty, the secret flavor, always traced back to the meat grinder. Mr. Grindle, the owner, was the ringmaster. He was a man of unsettling stillness. He was polite, precise, and obsessed with the meat. He often stood by the counter, hands always clean, always folded, watching us work with a peculiar, almost clinical intensity. To preserve the flavor of the brand, he'd say, insisting on handling the grinding himself every night. It was a sanctuary, a process we were forbidden to witness. We joked about the sacred grinder, but something in Grindle's small, precise smile always made me pause. He watched us with the serenity of a collector who owns something priceless and deadly. The rhythm of stability was the first thing to break. Chris, a quiet part-timer, vanished. No note, no call, just gone. Grindle simply smiled and announced, "A family emergency." I remember the profound sense of dislocation. The casual dismissal felt profoundly off, like a missing beat in a familiar song. The following Monday, the first batch of meat tasted subtly different. Richer, oddly substantial. It had a deeper, almost metallic tang, but with an intense savory quality that made your jaw ache. The customers, however, seemed to crave it, more than ever, raving louder than usual. I watched them, their eyes glazed with blissful consumption, and felt a cold drop in my stomach. 2 weeks later, Jenny didn't show up. My jokes about people burgers died in my throat. I couldn't shake the growing unease. The silence of the kitchen seemed to magnify the sheer weight of the heavy cast iron grinder. Silently waiting in the back, I felt the grease on my apron no longer symbolized honest labor. It felt like a stain of complicity. I began to hate the flavor I once loved. One night, staying late to clean, I heard the creak of wheels from the back hallway. Curiosity mixed with debilitating dread pulled me toward the walk-in freezer. I saw Grindle, his movements economical and strong, shoving a large, oddly contoured black bag inside a secondary unused refrigeration compartment. Grindle stepped out, calm, deliberate, wearing a pristine white apron. He didn't seem surprised to see me. "Curiosity is a dangerous thing, Jason," he said, his voice a smooth, low lullaby. He gestured to the freezer. "Side of beef, we order whole cuts. It preserves the flavor. You know, the quality standards." But then he smiled. It wasn't a human expression. His teeth sharpened the thin glinting razors, his eyes pooled an inky, fathomless black. The calm evaporated, replaced by something ancient, cruel, and predatory. The air around us dropped to 10 degrees. We stumbled backwards, scrambling for the back door, leaving Grindle's polite, amused laughter chillingly behind us. The next morning, we told our frantic story at the police station. Detectives were called, and a full forensic sweep began. It was a profoundly humiliating process. Watching uniformed men meticulously fingerprint the kitchen, treating us like we were the source of the chaos. Grindel's careful preparation had anticipated and erased the slightest trace. Every patty was sampled. The results came back clean. No human DNA, no anomalies, nothing. The police chief was cold and terse, his voice dripping with condescension. The report is not supported by evidence. It appears you boys had a severe case of fantasy, likely brought on by stress. The case was closed under teenager fantasy. He practically patted me on the head. The profound guilt of having loved the flavor of promoting the horror consumed me. My life's small pride had been built on a lie. I started skipping school, driven by a single desperate need: understanding Grindel's system. I started spending my afternoons in my car across the street, watching grillers like it was the only thing that mattered. I realized Grindel wasn't targeting the random, but the truly flawed. I saw the patterns. Chris was lazy, stealing time. Jenny was a chronic cheat, stealing tips. I realized Grindel wasn't killing, he was executing judgments, the purification of the decaying tissue of the town. When I saw Leo, the new kid who replaced me, nervously pocketing money from the register, I knew Leo was next. I tried desperately to warn the boy, pulling him aside in the alley behind the school. He looked at me like I was insane. Fearing exposure more than death, he only backed away from me. That night, I kicked in the service door of Grillers. The low, sickening hum of the massive hidden industrial grinder pulsed from beneath the trapdoor near the grill station. I ripped it open and plunged into the damp, copper-scented basement. The room was cold, tiled with a stark white, and dominated by the sight of the colossal industrial-grade grinder, a brutal machine of cold, unforgiving steel, bolted directly to the concrete floor. The room was not messy. It was sterile, like a morgue. Leo was strapped to a steel table. Next to it, his eyes wide with paralyzing terror. Grindel, clad in pristine white surgical jumpsuit, stood over him, holding a long, wicked knife. "You came back, Jason. I had high hopes for you," he murmured. His eyes went instantly vacant, the black pooling like an oil replacing his humanity. I was trapped, held in place by his unnatural composure. Grindel did not fight, he lectured. "The police look for motive," he said, sweeping his hand toward the machine. "This is a necessary purification. The town is dying morally, full of low-effort slackers, gossips, and thieves. Every week, a little more rot. The citizens of Crestview crave perfection. When they eat my product, they are symbolically consuming the very weakness that Grillers has purged." His smile grew beatific, almost serene. The greater the flaw, the stronger their devotion. Leo, ambition built on theft, a perfect flavor. He pulled out his knife. "Now I have two problems, a thief and a detective. The town needs its flavor." Grindel lunged. I dodged, grabbing Leo's heavy brass trumpet case, the one he carried everywhere, and slammed it into Grindel's head. I kicked a bucket of oily degreaser across the floor, creating a deadly slick surface. Grindel, momentarily thrown off balance, roared, his facade broken. I slammed the emergency stop button on the grinder. Grindel's attention snapped to the suddenly silent machinery. I swung the trumpet case again. He stumbled backward, his white jumpsuit sliding on the slick metal, falling over the steel lip of the massive chute. I didn't hesitate. With a chilling, cold-blooded sense of completion, I slammed the start button. The motor exploded to life, the gears roaring at maximum torque. Grindel caught on the slick metal, was yanked into his own mechanism, with a terrible, final crunch. I didn't watch. The sound was enough. I freed Leo, cut the straps, and shoved the boy up the stairs. I gave him a final command. "You forget this basement. Go home, and never speak of this. If you do, I will find you." He disappeared into the night, weeping hysterically. I spent the rest of the night cleaning the basement until the tiles gleamed, erasing every trace of the impossible struggle. fastidiously followed Grindle's procedures, ensuring the machinery was purged and the floor was spotless. I scrubbed away the last vestiges of my previous life. For the next 2 weeks, Grillers remained closed. I was constantly watching the town, with Grindle, the hidden predatory deterrent, gone. Crestview seemed to sag overnight. The town's behavior became flagrantly worse. I saw more litter piling up, witnessed teenagers openly vandalizing the town square or memorial, and watched a prominent local attorney get away with a hit and run. No consequences, no noise. The rot wasn't slow, it was accelerating. Exposed to the light, the people Grindle had described, the slackers, the cheats, the parasites, weren't abstract. They were taking over. I spent hours listening to the tapes of Grindle's cold analysis of the moral failures he identified. He hadn't been a monster. He had been a horrifying surgeon, one who kept the heart of the town beating through brutal, necessary means. A cold, absolute certainty settled in my gut. He was right. Someone had to preserve the illusion of perfection, and I was the only person who knew the recipe and possessed the will to execute it. I then went to Grindle's office, using the owner's meticulously organized legal documents and power of attorney. I spent the next 2 days executing an unnervingly calm transfer of ownership. Grindle had built structures for an ultimate financial flexibility, ensuring his successor could take seamlessly over. When Grillers reopened, I was behind the counter. "Mr. Grindle?" a customer asked. I gave a practiced, regretful shrug. "Family matters. He's caring for his gravely ill mother. He always said I understood the flavor best and advised I take over." The town accepted it easily. The explanation appealed to their low-grade cynicism. I, the new proprietor, was deliberate. I ran the inventory and learned Grindle's system for identifying the next decaying tissue. One evening I watched a popular local councilman, a man I knew, was quietly embezzling from the town's infrastructure. He walked into the restaurant and ordered his usual double burger. I nodded, a familiar, shadowy emptiness momentarily clouding my gaze. I stepped back toward the grill, hands resting on the cool steel. I tried to stop the cycle, I thought, the cold logic settling in my bones. But Grindle was right. The town needs its flavor, and now I'm the only one here with the focus to preserve it. I looked up at the councilman, then back at the spotless humming kitchen, and offered the thin, precise smile of the new ringmaster. The flavor of tradition remained perfectly preserved, and the town would never know it was currently chewing on one of its own. Become an initiate. Like, share, subscribe, comment, and join the circle.